What's up, everyone? This is Prince Robert Onyejiak with Prince Tech TV. In this discussion, I'm speaking with Charmagne Tellis. She is the IT portfolio leader for Tapestry. Tapestry is a publicly traded company that is the parent company of Stuart Weitzman, Kate Spade, and Coach. In this discussion, we're talking about 5G, behavioral analytics, and cybersecurity. Very interesting discussion, a lot to learn in this one. Stay tuned. Hello, Charmagne. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm great, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining the vlog today. And we have some really important topics to discuss, some interesting ones. I want to start off with introducing Charmagne. She is a IT portfolio leader for Tapestry. And if you could just tell us a little bit about the company Tapestry per se, and what you
Sure.
do.
So Tapestry is a luxury retail company, New York based. It was founded in 1941. Originally, it was Coach, a single brand, founded in 1941. And it now is a multi-brand fashion house, still based in New York. Tapestry is the owner of Coach, Stuart Weitzman, and Kate Spade. And it is a global company. We have several offices and stores worldwide for all three brands. So I work in the
Wow.
IT organization as a senior IT portfolio manager. I am responsible for overseeing the entire portfolio of IT projects across all three brands, across all of our teams, across all regions. So I oversee the entire portfolio of
Wow.
IT projects, making sure that, the projects are prioritized, they're budgeted for, um, they're planned for the year, projects that come in throughout the year that are not planned for, making sure, that they go through our demand management process, reporting. I train all of our PMs. I wear a lot of different hats as a portfolio manager.
Wow. A lot of responsibility, I see.
Yes,
A lot.
yes.
But okay. Well, for this discussion, I want to talk about 5G, and what are your thoughts on 5G? Because that's a big discussion or topic that people are talking about, especially how it relates to cybersecurity and how these breaches and exposure is now more possible to happen due to 5G. So you could just tell us, what do you think?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm not an expert in
Yeah.
5G or networking, anything like that. So I think probably my response is probably more so from a consumer perspective,
Right.
um, and a bit as an IT professional. So, 5G is hot.
Right.
It's hot. So I think that it's definitely a game changer when it comes to so many different facets within IT. For instance, Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You know, um, of course, when you're in an office, you have the regular network access, and then you have the Wi-Fi access. So I think that 5G certainly would make Wi-Fi access within an office a lot faster, and probably make the workplace a lot more productive,
Right.
potentially. And then the same remotely. So especially with the pandemic, a lot of IT professionals, such as myself, we work remotely. I've been working remotely since March.
Mm,
I don't believe that my home Wi-Fi is on 5G
okay.
yet, but I would imagine that when I do upgrade my Wi-Fi to 5G, that it'll make me a lot more productive at home as well.
Right.
Um, I mean, as far as so I see a lot of opportunity there, as far as, productivity, performance, of servers and, and other infrastructure. There's definitely a lot of opportunity there. being on 5G, moving to 5G. As far as cybersecurity, being that 5G is still relatively new, I would think that if 5G is not foolproof yet, as far as mitigating cybersecurity threats, that there definitely needs to be a closer look at the technology and see where there are improvements needed in order to make it as foolproof as possible against the threats that are out there.
I'm sorry, I'm turning off my phone. Of course, my phone would go off now. Yes, but I'm sorry to interrupt. You could go ahead.
No, I was just saying that with 5G being still relatively new, if it's not foolproof yet, as far as the cybersecurity threats that are out there, then there definitely would need to be, like with any other technology, it's a deeper dive into how it can be improved to
Right.
mitigate those threats. And then with cybersecurity threats, there's always new threats that are happening every day, right?
Yeah.
There's new threats every day. So it has to be continuous improvement, like with any other technology to mitigate those threats.
Right. And I almost feel like they're just I don't know, my opinion on 5G. Okay, so my understanding is it's connecting a lot of different things together, like networks or whatsoever. Like I almost want to, it's almost like it's making stuff more interoperable. And I feel like, as it relates to cybersecurity, that's going to make things a lot more open for hackers, et cetera, to really do some damage or come in and, create security breaches, et cetera. And so, to your point, with the constant evolving of tweaking the security or tweaking the, um, I don't know what I really want to say for it. 5G in itself, I think it's going to take a lot of time for us to really get a hold on it to be something that's efficiently working for us. And there's a lot of people out there that are, scared of it, and they think that, once it's everything is on 5G, that there's going to be a lot of issues, and you're going to be open to exposed to a lot of different hackers, et cetera. So we gotta see.
Yeah, I guess we do. I mean, before 5G, there was all the other G's, right? 4G, 3G, and I would
2G.
yeah, I would imagine they all had the same types of issues. I know.
Yeah.
So I think with any other technology, 5G has to go through its growing pains of closing up of the holes like any of its predecessors.
Right. Yeah. So I guess, what I take from that is it's just going to take time.
Yes, agree.
What are your thoughts on behavioral analytics and how that, how that's going to be affected with cybersecurity?
Yeah, so behavioral analytics, it's a term that's new for me. So I want to make sure that I'm answering your question. So how do you define behavioral analytics?
So how I define it is being able to capture data. Maybe it's a device or something where you're looking at, you're able to assess what, based off of what the person does. Um, you're, it's so hard to explain. Based off of what the person does, it may be a device. They may be clicking a certain button or using some device. You're able to accumulate a large data set and determine, okay, this is how the behavior is when things are this certain way, if that makes
Got
sense.
it. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I guess for me that kind of goes hand in hand with automation and AI, artificial intelligence. I kind of think of them kind of grouped together,
Yeah.
sort of. because it's predictive, right? So the behavioral analytics attempts to be predictive.
Mhm.
And it's the same, I think, with automation and AI. So I think with with cybersecurity, there's a lot of threats that are out there that preys on the same type of um, behavioral patterns. So, for
Right.
instance, I don't know if I go. I'm making this up, but if 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 I go onto my laptop, which I do, if I go onto my laptop every week and I paid my bills, right? Um, and if my laptop gets hacked somehow and someone's able to get onto my computer so they could kind of fish around to get passwords, um, I can envision a hacker on my laptop for an extended period of time to determine what my behavioral patterns are
Right.
so that they can predict when I'm going to pay those bills and then possibly get a hold of my password while
Hmm.
I'm paying those bills. So I think that cyber security threats could potentially use those same behavioral patterns that are used for behavioral analytics, use those same behavioral patterns to cause harm, to
Yeah.
hack, to steal personal data, to steal passwords, etc. So, and it's very interesting. The same data set could be used for good, i.e., the data that is generated from the behavioral analytics, and then also be used for harm and use those same patterns to grab personal data.
Right. That's very interesting. And there's not a real way to throw that I can think of to really throw the hackers off of predicting when you're going to do something. You know,
Right.
I can't really think of a way to do that, but I'm sure that over time that there will be some things that come into play where it makes it harder for them to predict some of your next moves. And then the other thing that what I think with behavioral analytics is a lot of people feel like it's very invasive because you have your stores, your malls. They're collecting data like, on buying patterns and stuff like that, but very in depth, and they're taking um, some private information to make decisions on what to sell, when to do it, etc. And it's now as time goes on, they get more and more invasive. But at some point, there has to be a line that's drawn. And so I don't know. What do you think? It's invasive, or were we getting there? Are we taking
I
it too far?
I mean, I think it depends. I think it could vary from consumer to consumer. So, putting my consumer hat. So, yeah, putting my consumer hat on. Um, I think it's kind of cool for. So I'll just use one of the brands for my company. Like I love Coach. I
Yeah.
love Coach. I love Coach products, and so I think that if there was some sort of way that Coach could know what my shopping patterns are, and for instance, I'm into these wristlets.
Okay.
They're these like small purse. I don't know if you know what a wristlet is, but it's like a small purse, and it has a strap that you hold on to in your hand, and it's not like a full blown
I think I know what you're talking about.
purse,
Yeah.
right? You literally hold it onto your wrist. And ever since the pandemic and me working from home, I don't really And being that I don't go out as much, I don't need a full-blown purse. So I'm into these wristlets. So I have a whole bunch of wristlets, different colors. So if and a lot of them I bought online. So if I'm on my laptop and something pops up from Coach giving me an advertisement of their latest wristlets based on my shopping patterns, for the past 6 months, um, I don't know. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool because that's where my head is at right now.
Right. Right.
Whereas if it's another consumer and let's say they lost their job from the pandemic, the last thing that they want to see is a whole bunch of pop-ups about wristlets and other Coach products that they bought over the past 6 months. So I think it depends on the consumer's situation.
Right.
I think it can vary from consumer to consumer, as far as whether it's interpreted as or comes across as invasive or not. And then on the flip side, from the retailer side, they're trying to increase their bottom line,
Of
their
course.
revenue, and so anything that they could do to help consumers, make their next purchase based on their shopping history,
Right.
that's helping them. So there's two sides to the coin, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know of like what, like say for instance, for one person, the other touch points that they're using to assess the buying patterns, or like what data points are they grabbing? Around
I
them?
think it a whole array of data points, on demographics, age, um, demographics as far as location. Um, I'm not in that department per se,
Yeah.
so I don't know all of the data points, but I know from a lot of the corporate presentations that I've seen on what's latest and greatest. Definitely age, definitely gender, um, demographics, as far as where people live at. Um, and they do a lot of focus, at least my company, they've done a lot of focus groups. I'm not
Mm.
really sure of the details of how they select the consumers who they include in their focus groups, but they definitely have a lot of focus group discussions. And I
Mm.
believe that a lot of the data points that are used come out of the results from those focus group discussions and the
Right.
feedback that they get directly from consumers to understand what it is that she or he wants from our brands. And so the data points end up becoming very dynamic based on the direct feedback that they hear from consumers.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. And my next question, Charmaine, is as a IT portfolio leader with Tapestry, um, could you tell us about like some of the challenges that you face as it relates to leading your team and the meeting objectives?
Right. So I think that one of the common challenges are the triple constraints around budget, costs, time, quality, scope. All of those are very typical, when it comes to projects and managing a portfolio of projects. And I think that over the past several years, at least within our company, it's a public company, and so I don't think anything that I'm saying would be shocking or
Yeah.
surprising, but we've been going through a transformation for the past several years. And with that, we've had to adjust our operating model to figure out how we can make our IT organization a lot more streamlined, a
Mm.
lot more efficient. And some of it is partly because we're now a multi-brand, right? So we've acquired two additional brands. So first it was Coach, and then we brought on Stuart Weitzman, and then we brought on Kate Spade. And as we acquired these brands and we became a larger organization, we had to figure out how we could become a lot more scalable so that when we acquire additional brands, we can bring them into the
Ready.
fold a lot more smoothly, a lot more seamless, and we're ready to take them on
Mm.
a lot more quickly. So part of the transformation, is in order for us to become a lot more scalable, and then also, with cost, how can we reduce cost? We have a much larger footprint, as far as infrastructure and applications, because now we're multi-brand, and with each brand comes more applications, more
Right.
infrastructure, more employees, etc. So we have to have an operating model that can support all of that, and that would be ready to take on more brands. And then and as far as cutting costs, the pandemic, that really just heightened it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, right, so when things started shutting down in March of last year, the first things that we had to figure out was what projects we had to continue working on, which projects we could stop, which projects we can cancel and just not
Hmm.
do. So there was a lot of discussions that we had to have very, very quickly,
Right. Right.
to determine, what investments, we had to keep, and what investments we could forego.
Mm.
And that we're always doing that. I mean, that's part of what portfolio management is about. But um but the pandemic really, really made it critical for us to do it ASAP.
Yeah.
And I think it just heightened that. And so now um we have processes that are a lot more rigorous, and we're looking at projects a lot more closely than we did in the past. And
Mm.
our strategic goals and objectives as an organization has to take into account, as far as the pandemic, um, how do we look for new ways for increasing our revenue. So for instance,
Yeah.
Coach has an online outlet site.
Hmm.
And so there are outlet products that are sold there, just like there are outlets in the malls, right? You know how there's outlet malls. So with the pandemic, of course, a lot of those stores were closed. So we had to figure out other ways for how
Oh,
we could get, consumers to continue to buy products. And so we had a big digital transformation that had to happen very quickly, that we had to get off the ground and happen very quickly. And digital is really a big push,
yeah.
even more so now than before. And with that, there are other areas that have to kind of take a back seat.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of bare bones. Keep the lights on, and so digital is definitely at the forefront. And the challenge is, okay, well, how do we get other projects done, if digital is the priority?
Hmm. Right. So you guys definitely have to become, I guess, more picky on which projects to forego with and which ones not to forego with. Um,
Absolutely.
and a lot of things started to transform a lot more digitally as a result of the COVID pandemic.
Yes.
And so what do you think about the future? And how is that going to affect the future? How's COVID going to affect the future of managing the portfolio and the company, et cetera, from an
Right.
IT perspective?
Well, I think from a workplace perspective, working remotely is is um, is is a lot more. There's a lot more focus on working remotely and how the company can support employees working remotely as opposed to being in the office. So there's a lot more investments that have been made and that continue that 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 continues to be made and has to be a focal point to make sure that the employee experience is seamless when
Hmm.
working remotely versus working in the office so that we don't impact productivity or we at least keep the impact productivity at a minimal.
Right.
So um, a lot of investment that was not made in the past for like desktop support and collaboration tools, etc. Um, the the IT budget has to a lot more resources to that than in the past,
Mm.
and has to keep that earmarked in the future because there are a lot of departments and a lot of employees who are going to continue working remotely for the long term.
Right.
So that's one. Um, and then, again, with digital taking taking a front seat, I think that our investment decisions and our strategic goals and objectives have to really be a lot more thoughtful, as far as what's important and what's not important. Um, a lot of nice to have projects,
Yeah.
um, we just can't do them. We just can't do them
Sure.
anymore.
Right.
And just like a lot of other companies, we've lost resources, and so we have smaller teams, and with less resources, we have to continue to figure out how to get all the work done
Right.
with less people, and so just all of that combined, it just it's a lot to adjust to, and then we have to keep the morale of the employees up,
Oh yeah.
because in an ever changing environment where unfortunately employees come and they go, and the employees who are left, they have more work that they have to do.
Yeah.
you know Helping employees get their keep their stress level down, and at the same time helping them continue to be productive. There are some employees who enjoy working from home, and so it's great for them, and then there are others who
It,
they prefer to be in the office because they prefer they prefer to get away from home.
right.
So we have to find ways to collaborate in new ways, with some teams being completely remote, and then other teams there being a hybrid between the two, where you have some who are in the office and others who are remote. So we have to find new ways of collaborating, um, that we'll be able to sustain over time, have all of the tools and resources in place to support that, and just continuing to um, you know get the keep the lights on work done. And then at the same time, keeping our digital initiatives going and having enough resources to do all of that and still being innovative, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all of our competitors are probably going through the same thing. So we always have to find new innovative ways to get new products out there, get our products in front of consumers, and support them in new ways that we haven't supported them in the past, especially if consumers are going to be more online than in the stores. We have to we have to be as innovative as we can. So all of those things combined, it creates challenges, it
Of
creates
course.
opportunity, but it also creates opportunity.
Yeah.
Where there's innovation, I think there's opportunity. So
Right.
it's also exciting, yeah, especially when you're under the gun to come out with things pretty quickly to stay competitive. It creates a good pressure, I think, to kind of keep employees on their toes and forward thinking.
Right. So how do you, what's your method for innovation since you guys have to adapt or be flexible and think of, novel ways to please your or satisfy your customers from an IT perspective? Like, how do you take an approach of, you know, creating an innovative environment or getting ideas to the table
Right.
to implement?
Right. Well, we definitely we have a great architecture team. We have great enterprise architects who focus their time on innovation. So we have a team dedicated to innovation.
Oh, okay.
And so that's really, really important. I think a lot of organizations where there may be resource constraints, they have the same teams doing both innovation as well as, the day-to-day projects and keep the lights on, operations, etc. And so they may not have as much opportunity to do innovative initiatives where there's resource constraints. So our organization has the opportunity to have a team that is dedicated to innovation. And so that our innovation team, they keep up with what's going on in the industry, in the retail
Hmm.
industry, um, and they take their learnings back to the company. And we have a lot of POCs, a lot of proof of concept to try out the innovative ideas. And we have a lot of pilots
Hmm.
of those innovative ideas that come to fruition, and those that bring in revenue, they win.
Right.
you know
Yeah.
so we have that. So we have dedicated resources that focus on innovation, and then those focus groups that I mentioned, where we get direct feedback from consumers. A lot
Hmm.
of a lot of that feedback from those focus groups get back to our innovation team, and a lot of ideas come out of that as well.
Wow. Nice.
Yes.
Well, there you have it. This is a great discussion, Charmaine. Um,
Likewise.
yes.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And the end part, I'm gonna edit this part out. Hold on, let me go ahead and stop this recording.